You're watching Fantasy Studs and Suds, only on Fantasy Now Plus.
Good afternoon, everybody, and welcome to episode 13 of Fantasy Studs and Suds, brought to you by Fantasy Now Plus and the Funz Talk Sports Network. I am the Fantasy Nobody, Jeffrey Crisp, and with me is my co-host, CJ Pudge LePage. Our segments today will include Fantasy Studs, Training Camp Notables, Fantasy Leagues, Last Place Penalties, Fantasy Priority, Beyond the Three. We continue our series on players that are the fourth, fifth, or lesser fantasy options on NFL teams. Fantasy Suds, we present our brews of the week, and Fantasy Funz, another round of A or B. Pudge, how goes your Friday? You can't speak when you are muted.
I was trying to utilize our newfound.
How are those hotkeys working for you?
Man, they worked 5 seconds ago.
They did.
Well,
they did.
Friday was going great until I just realized that it's not working yet, but it's a work in progress. We'll get there. It's a Friday. It is almost the end of July, and I am getting ready for school, taking the kids and getting all of their supplies. We did a bunch of that today. Now it is just, let's hang out for the rest of the weekend and not do a thing because Dad's broke.
Oh, I thought maybe you were going to tell me you were pulling a little Billy Madison and retaking courses from elementary school through high school in order to get your diploma. Glad to hear it's for your children instead. For me, my Friday is going well, better than you with your hotkeys. You were right. They were working well until you had to take your shot. It's kind of like me in golf. My practice swings are beautiful, and then I square up and it's ugly. So hopefully your hotkeys next week are better than my golf game every single time I am out. So with that said, let's move on to Fantasy Studs. So NFL training camp started earlier this week, and while some teams had rookies report a week or so early, and the Chargers and Lions had full team reports last week, all vets were required to report a few days ago. Now is the time where position battles transpire and clear starters begin to emerge. Pudge, what players have made headlines this week for you?
This week we've got a place called Cleveland, and it appears that they are going to be starting 1, 2, 3, 4 quarterbacks this year. I don't think actually that Joe Flacco is going to be around very long. I will give props to Mary Kay Cabot. She's on X. She was reporting earlier this afternoon that it seems as though Mr. Shadur Sanders has embraced his humility, and he did some very grown-up things this afternoon. Right before one of the linebackers, it was Jerome Baker. He was up at the podium and he was taking questions this afternoon, and Shadur came out to address the media. And before he was done, or before Baker was done, Shadur, I will not take any kind of questions. I will not answer any questions until Jerome's done today. Now, to me, a rookie acknowledging, those type of things that, he's not the biggest man in the room anymore. He's not the smartest guy in the room anymore. Those guys are going to latch onto that. And maybe, just maybe, a 5th round pick could be starting week 5 or 6. Have you heard anything else about the great debate down there in Cleveland?
Well, interesting enough, I think it was earlier this morning. I don't know if it was Stefanski who came out and said that they are actually considering rostering 4 quarterbacks for the season. I have no idea why you would do that. Those spots are valuable, and when you have the short-term injury history that you have on offensive line, defense, I mean, any position, why would you waste a position on a 4th quarterback? I mean, some teams don't even carry 3. They're usually on the practice squad, or they're picking them up off the waiver wire, or off the street when and if it's needed. So carrying 4, that's a very interesting move. You would think if that's really what they wanted to do, that one of the veterans would have to be cut. But I saw that this morning, and I was really perplexed by that move. So I can't see them doing it, but that was what was being discussed this morning.
If you look at the diverse type of players that they're picking up, offense and defense, a lot of these offensive players played college ball as quarterback. A lot of these defensive players played college ball, or not college ball. They started out, playing ball as quarterback because they're the best athlete on the team. So to carry 2 quarterbacks into a game is not unheard of. A lot of teams do it. They've got their emergency quarterback, and that, it's not that difficult to find somebody to just get out there and hand the ball off. But if you're at the 3rd string quarterback, you're not planning on winning anyway. You're just going to finish the game. That's how I look at it.
A couple quick comments. Josh, yes, it seems like everything with school today cost money. I mean, I'm old enough to remember when that stuff was all covered. You cannot be involved in any kind of activity in school, and you cannot be involved even with academics without having to shell out the green. It's quite frustrating. But yep, school season is definitely here. Hello, Jamie. How are you?
Long time listener, long time follower. Jamie's there every week. Thank you.
Yes, Jamie, we appreciate you tagging along with us for our crazy ride. So cheers. Who's next on your list there, Pudge?
It's not that I was wrong, and I'm trying to eat my ego. It's that a player that I thought was very much going to play the season fully looks like he might not play at all. That's Chris Godwin. I am looking at Jalen McMillan now. Jalen McMillan is a big riser on my published rankings. I put him up there on the 23rd. He and Mika Egbuka will be very much a priority to watch for me with the Godwin injury. This boosts all of those players. Without Liam Cohen there to guide those guys, it'll be difficult. So I think they're going to rely on those veteran players, realize that he's just a rookie, but he had some solid weeks last year. So Josh Kimmel, if you can give us some insight on that a little bit later this week, or maybe on the recap, when you guys do it, that'd be great. Give us a little insider over there in Tampa Bay. But I think McMillan could be a sneaky good play with this injury news for Chris Godwin. I do have another camp body that looks like he's going to emerge from the ashes is Javonte Williams. Javonte Williams was now taking first team reps, not Miles Sanders, who was taking them all spring. I think that Javonte Williams, another year away from his injury, is going to be a big time addition to the Dallas Cowboys. Now that they've got that line, they're starting to situate that. They brought in George Pickens, so everybody can't pick on CeeDee Lamb, which will also make me a liar in our earlier article that we created. There was just not enough firepower there, but they are starting to assemble some stuff over there with Mr. Schottenheimer as their head coach. And then we've got Terry McLaurin. I know you love Terry McLaurin. If you want to add some stuff in there, I'll let you go. If not, I'll just keep on rattling off Terry McLaurin.
No, again, when you and I are talking about, like any analyst, when you're talking about how you anticipate players to perform, that is sans injuries to other players or something is unexpected or is problematic as a holdout. We can only base our projections and our reviews on the information that's available to us. Anything can happen. So if we try to go down the list and project players based on every possible injury, we'd have no real lives, and we'd just be sitting here drinking beer all the. Wait a minute, I like that idea. Maybe we should do that. I have no more to say on McLaurin. I just hope he gets signed.
That's a good sign. Should we do a show about beer?
We should. I think what we should do is do a show about beer and just kind of throw some football in there. But let's move on.
I bet you we can call it Studs and Suds.
Or how about Suds and Studs?
Oh, hey.
Ooh.
Here.
We're so brilliant.
But I've got some other stuff. We've got some guys on PUP that are not going to be there very long. Joe Mixon. We talked about him last week. Fading. Now he's ended up with another high ankle injury. We've got Ricky Pearsall nursing a hamstring injury. He's on the PUP list. I don't expect him to be there very long. I see a couple players that are more of a camp battle than injuries. I'm looking at guys like Juwan Jennings, who's going to break out there, who's going to be the top dog over there for the 49ers. There's Trey Harris over there with Quentin Johnston that looks awesome. Both guys look like they came to camp, and Quentin Johnston, after them taking Trey Harris in the second round, looks like he took the offseason very serious. Sometimes it happens. Look at Jordan Mason last year. Jordan Mason bought the jugs machine, came to camp, catching balls, looking great. Sometimes those players need that competitive atmosphere, and maybe Huge will thrive from it. Hopefully he does. Another camp body that looks very, very good this year coming to camp. One of those guys that probably nobody really thought of was Wan'Dale Robinson. Wan'Dale Robinson, he was a good PPR play last year, and this year he is looking like a solid number 2 next to Malik Neighbors. I don't know who the reporter is I don't know who the beat writer is, but they had a good article. Sorry about that. But their article about Malik Neighbors lining up with Wan'Dale on the same side looks pretty good. Wan'Dale out of the slot. Keon Coleman, he has been a very good name out of Buffalo. He looks like he is going to be a solid pick after their woes last year, I would say. They didn't add anybody, so I think they really knew what they had in him. But like I said previously, that Buffalo offense is very, very difficult to grasp. Maybe year one wasn't how he pops off. It used to be back in my day. I'm 42 years old, everybody. So it took those guys 3 years until Odell Beckham broke the mold and came out his rookie year and just torched the world. And then we had, Justin Jefferson, T. Higgins prior to Jamar Chase, Amon-Ra St. Brown coming out real late his freshman year. We got Malik Neighbors. We've been spoiled with these tight ends and wide receivers, but normally it takes wide receivers a good bit to get into the NFL. So those are my camp bodies. Do you have anybody else?
No, I think that's that was a good coverage. I really think that it's interesting you were talking about Juwan Jennings, especially since we know how much you love Ricky Pearsall, but with with uncertainty surrounding Ayuk, I know that is you got to put people on the field, and the number one is Jennings. That just means more opportunities for Pearsall. So, Jamie, can you convince my wife that I am the best? Because that is very difficult. But thank you very much for saying that. I will take it in stride. Pudge's head will explode with that one, but we'll move on. And fantasy football and whiskey, no thank you. I am not a whiskey guy. I love bourbon barrel aged beer, but I cannot do whiskey, so I'll pass on that. And we will also talk a little bit about Quentin Johnson a little bit further into the show.
It is so weird. It is so weird that you love bourbon barrel aged beer and do not love whiskey. But I digress. We can push on.
We'll talk about cabbage one day on a show. So NFL teams are training for their seasons, vying for a championship. But what happens to fantasy teams when they finish their season in the standings basement? Fantasy leagues have instituted myriad methods of embarrassing last-place teams as if finishing last isn't punishment enough. Well-publicized consequences of a last-place finish have included the loser getting a tattoo of the winner's choice. The Justin Bieber one is very well known. And basement dwellers having to put a fat head of their wall of the commissioner, the fat head on their wall of the commissioner or the GM of the first-place team. And, of course, that usually comes at the cost of the last-place team's GM. So, Pudge, what is a punishment you know exists in any of your current or previous leagues, or one you know someone else has experienced in one of their leagues?
Well, I know I don't look like it, but I am an avid reader. It's a shocker. Hold the press. But Matthew Berry came out with a book about fantasy and like how he goes about it and in his home leagues and stuff like that. And in his fantasy leagues, when the last place team gets awarded last place, they have to go get a tattoo of the winner's choice. Now that right there is some serious high stakes stuff. I would play fantasy for $1,000 a league instead of getting a tattoo if I got last place. Or if I was last place, I would climb, crawl, bite, do whatever I had to do to not get last place. Whether it's a trade, anything, do something. But that to me was crazy. I couldn't believe it. And when I read that book, I thought it was pretty awesome. I take fantasy very serious. You do too. But a tattoo, I mean, we've had some people do some funny things for our drafts. I'm not going to mention your fantasy football name and Mr. Sean Saul Wasser's league, but we'll keep that out of there because it's it's a family show.
Yeah, my wife.
But
she's to blame for that, but just move on.
But yeah, it's crazy. And I did forget one name. Justin Fields. I don't know if you heard of him, but he did have a dislocated toe, and it's about a 6 weeks recovery. Like I said, they'll cover that on the recap show. This is not an injury show. Jamie, you are correct about Justin Jefferson's hamstring, but yeah, I try to leave the injury stuff alone and leave that to the recap guys. Those guys over there.
Those guys know what they're talking about. We just are here. Just
Josh and Justin, they know all that stuff.
Yeah, we're just spewing forth the nonsense, and we'll talk a little bit later about the great lineup of shows that Fantasy Now Plus will be presenting here in the upcoming weeks, just in time for the season. We're going to have around-the-week coverage of live shows as well as our continuing other podcasts and articles. So if you are just joining us on Fantasy Now Plus, check out the website, check out our podcast, check out our uploading streams. and continue to stick with us and subscribe wherever you see that. But for me, in Last Bastion of Goal Line Defiance, a league we've talked about ad nauseum on the show, one of the things we had voted to do was have last place team draft from the bathroom. And if someone had to use the bathroom, that person would have to vacate only long enough for someone to use it. Once that person was through, they were required to re-enter the bathroom. Now, I'm just going to say there are certain times when you never want to follow Pudge in the bathroom. And we'll just leave it at that.
They call me Jupiter. And, I'm a gassy giant.
Yeah. You said it. I'm moving on. But that was one of the rules that we had. We removed it like right away. And partly because where we were drafting at the time we were actually using my basement, didn't have a bathroom down here at that time. We do now, but we ended up getting rid of that rule. Any others for you, Pudge?
So there's a rule that I would like placed in all of my home leagues. It is the last place team pays for the third place team, because the third place team usually doesn't get much. First team usually gets something. Second team usually gets their money back, right? Or whatever your team is. But I would love to see the last place team pay for third place's entry fee for the following year. I love it. To me, it's a double whammy. Like, yeah, you're getting hit. A lot of it. We're not talking about astronomically priced leagues, guys. That's not what we're here for. This fee is, it's middle class. We'll say that. We'll say it's very low middle class. It's just we basically just throw money at each other to win a trophy every year. That's really what it is. We don't play for a lot of money. It's not high stakes in that league. But I would love to see that last place just, hey, all of a sudden they've got to pay for the third place team. So
I like the idea of having the last. Either way, I like the idea of having the last place team. If they cash the next year, or if they cash within like the next 2 years, they have to put their money back into the pool or something like that. Something that doesn't necessarily cost them right away. But I get your idea. I also like the idea of last place. What's that?
That's too much to keep track of. That's on you, Commissioner.
Have you not seen my spreadsheets? That is not a problem. I also like the idea of the last place GM being responsible for food at a live draft. We've talked about that idea before, but I also know some people may, I don't know what we'd end up with. I know one particular GM, all we'd have are chips and dip for the entire draft. So that may be a ridiculous idea enough. But quite frankly, the ridicule from other GMs is punishment enough. So definitely many leagues offer incentive not to finish last. Finding contributing players beyond the studs is often a great way to ensure enough wins to avoid the basement. When perusing NFL rosters for running backs, wide receiver, and tight end, spotting 3 players with significant fantasy relevance is rarely difficult. With many rosters, however, identifying contributors past those 3 players may take a little more work. Today, we continue Beyond the 3, a multi-part series where we will isolate 1 or 2 players on each team's roster we believe can contribute to your fantasy team's success. These are players that may already be a mid-round target for fantasy GMs, or they may be late-round sleepers. They may even be undrafted free agents sitting on the wire. This week, we're going to quickly rattle off the LA Chargers, Kansas City, Indianapolis, Washington, Dallas, Miami, Philadelphia, and Atlanta. Please note that all rankings provided are courtesy of Fantasy Pros and based on Dynasty half-point PPR, 1 points per yard, and 6 points per TD. With that said, Los Angeles Chargers, kick us off, Pudge.
I'm going to talk about Najee Harris. He's going 131st overall. He's running back 34. With the news of him injuring his eye, he's probably got some stitches. I haven't seen it. I haven't really dug into the injury stuff so far yet. But Najee Harris is going to take carries. He's going to be the Thunder to the Hampton Lightning. He's probably not going to see any passing down stuff. I understand. But Najee Harris going at running back 34, he's going to provide you a safe floor week in and week out. He doesn't get injured. He's that guy that will be there on bye weeks when everybody else, all your high floor players are on buys or they're hurt because they're high floor players. That's why they're there. And when you see Najee Harris there staring you in the face, don't be scared. Over there with Jim Harbaugh is going to rely on his veterans. He loves to rely on all his veterans. That's just the kind of player or the kind of coach he is. If you look at him, and through his tenure as a professional coach, his players are all mostly veterans. He just doesn't like to deviate unless it's really late in the season or he has to. So that's what I have about Najee. What do you got about you guys over there?
Well, my player is Quentin Johnson, the aforementioned Johnson. He's overall 172, wide receiver 71. Now, Johnson was targeted 36% more than his rookie season, increasing his catch rate to 60.4%. Still not great, but a significant improvement from the previous year. Most notable was finding pay dirt 8 times during the season last season, and he was only surpassed on the team by J.K. Dobbins. Now, McConkey has a hold on the top receiver spot, and Trey Harris is certainly going to make things interesting. There's no discounting the knocks against Johnson. We won't go through all of them here. There's several. But there has been some early positive news out of camp on his progression. Johnson's size is undeniable, and if he takes steps forward again this year, as a low-end wide receiver 5 or wide receiver 6 in round 15, you could do much, much worse for a flex or bench warmer. And at that position, I'm all over Johnson.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. Like I said, I just talked about him earlier, and it correlates with what you're talking about here. So, you want to talk about Kansas City next, or do you got anything else over there for?
Yes, let's move on to Kansas City.
All right, Kansas City. Marquise Brown is like an afterthought for most drafts. He's going 159 overall, and he's wide receiver 67. Rashee Rice, we don't know what we're going to get from him this year. He's going to get suspended. He's also coming off of a major knee injury. Xavier Worthy, he is very boom bust. But outside of Kelsey, there's Marquise Brown. And Marquise Brown, while on the field, is going to produce monster games. He's done it before. He's very Chris Olave. Chris Olave, while he's on the field, he's a wide receiver 1, wide receiver 2. Marquise Brown, while he's on the field, he's going to produce as a high-end wide receiver 2. I'm not going to say he's wide receiver 1. Kelsey, he has that role. It's locked up. And with nobody knowing Rice's situation quite yet, it'll be difficult to find a better receiver, a wide receiver 67. I'd be willing to go at least 2 rounds in front of that, around wide receiver 45 in seasonal leagues.
So for me, it's Travis Kelce. I know that seems kind of odd, but I mean, that's where we are today. Overall, he's going 117, tight end 13. In many meaningful stats, Kelce had the worst season of his career. Yardage and ratios thereof, touchdowns were almost all career lows. He was still targeted often, and his catch rate was still solid, but his yards per reception were in single digits for the first time in his career. His first down receptions were the lowest since his 2015 campaign. In redraft, he is still viable as a low-end tight end 1 or very high tight end 2. In a dynasty starter, perhaps round 11 is still a stretch for me, given his days are numbered. Even in a tight end premium, he provides very short-term production. So in a redraft, I can see you drafting him. In dynasty, especially in a startup, I'm not sure why you would go that route. If you have him on your roster and are not competing, you may be able to move him during the season to a contender that just needs help, but you are unlikely to get much in return. I've already seen a couple trade offers for Kelce even before the season, and you're just not going to get much for him. So I'm going to move on to Indianapolis and talk about a player, Michael Pittman, which is a little bit surprising for me, but I know a lot of people are enamored with other receivers there. Overall, he's at 108, wide receiver 44. I know Pittman's production was his lowest since his rookie year. He was targeted 29% less, 45 times less than he was in 2023. With only 808 yards, he took a significant step back from his 2023 campaign. There were reports, however, that he played with a fractured back during the season. And some say Josh Downs found favor with the team, but Downs' 2024 was only marginally better than 2023. The ball was definitely spread around as Downs and Pierce each had low 800-yard receiving seasons as well, mostly for Pierce based on the home run plays. If the 6'4", 220-ish Pittman is healthy in 2025, he may easily provide a team a solid flex option worth the late 9th, early 10th round selection. And I would definitely take him in that spot.
Yeah, I agree. Michael Pittman, it just seems like he's criminal. It's criminal where he's being drafted. But I got another guy who is wide receiver 73 and 175 overall. He's over there. He's on waivers and benches. That's Adonai Mitchell, sophomore coming out of the Indianapolis Colts last year. He had a lot of drops, mistimed routes. He wasn't on the same page as his QB most times. And that had a lot to do with Richardson in and out of the lineup. I don't think that he's the long-term future of those guys, but that's to be said. But last year, he only caught 45% of the passes that was thrown to him, and he only had about 312 yards as a rookie. Now, if you want to go through this week, if you look at training camp, you want to look at the training camp buzz, Josh Downs, who was a fellow wide receiver over there, was absolutely gushing over Adonai Mitchell this season, this offseason. He was talking about how he is so explosive and he is really, really going to provide a lot of assistance for Richardson and or Danny Dimes this season. I believe it's going to be Daniel Jones, ultimately, because he's just a good floor player, and that coaching staff is probably going to be on the outs if they don't produce anything this season. Adonai Mitchell would be awesome at a stash in Dynasty. If he has a few flashes, best ball, absolutely. He's going to have some games this year for sure. And then after Adonai, I want to talk about Washington. Washington has Zach Ertz. Zach Ertz at 198 overall in tight end 31 is absolutely bonkers to me. I don't think he's ever finished as anything besides a wide receiver one when he anytime he's ever played. I had to look back. I don't have the stats exactly, but
Not sure he ever finished as a wide receiver one, but go ahead.
Oh, has he never been a wide receiver one?
Well, he's a tight end.
Oh my goodness. I got stuck. I'm sorry, a tight end one.
Go ahead.
Dude, this guy has been absolutely phenomenal whenever he's been on the field. He's 34 years old. I get it. But without having Terry McLaurin on the field right now, I bet you he's getting a lot of those balls. And a lot of those balls are going to be possession when he's going to be on the field for third down. So Zach Ertz this year as tight end 31 seems ridiculous, especially because he's never not done it. I understand he's old and he's probably very, very blah. He's fantasy blah right now. Like, he's not a sexy name. We're probably tired of hearing his name, but those guys are still going to be around. I've seen a lot of guys pick up Darren Waller. I would pick up Zach Ertz 1,000 times in front of him. I don't know why he's still on waivers and benches, but Zach Ertz is going to produce this year. Has a wide receiver 12 to 18, not wide receiver 31.
Again, still not wide receiver, but
you. Tight end. Jeez, I can't. Sorry.
I just think when you look at the stats, I was looking at Fantasy Points data suite the other day, and again, there are two players that dominated the end zone targets: Terry McLaurin, Zach Ertz. If McLaurin is out, it's going to be Ertz, and you would do well to have Ertz on your team. It doesn't have to be your starting tight end, but he doesn't need to be, and you don't have to take him that early because he is sliding down the board quite a bit. Jamie, redraft, would you rather have Olave or Jawan Jennings? I'll let you take that one, Pudge.
Olave. I'm going to take Olave for sure. Whoops. Sorry about that. I like Olave. Like I just said, anytime he steps on the field, he's going to be wide receiver 1 or 2. He doesn't have those deep fall off the face of the earth weeks. He's going to get a high target volume. When you look at Chris Olave, don't look at him as you may not have him for a certain amount of time. Nobody knows about concussions. It's still a very, very, it's not a science that we know much about. We're just, putting the tip of the iceberg, so to speak, for brain injuries, and we're coming up with new ways for these guys to go out and produce with the helmet caps and stuff like that. There may be in a very near future a way for these guys to not receive concussions, or they are very, very minimal. So don't discount Chris Olave. And from what I have seen, by all accounts, I've seen him on the practice field through the media, and he looks stacked. He looks healthier. He's a very Marvin Harrison Jr. type season coming his way. He looks good, and he looks better than he ever has. So I would go Olave for sure.
If I'm in a redraft, I'm probably going Jennings. In a dynasty, I'm definitely taking Olave. I agree with what you're saying. The concerns are still there, and if he's not, like you said, he has to be on the field to produce. If he gets there, great. But I don't know. It's really tough as we get closer to the season. If you have a late August draft, that's going to, the more information is always better. So if you have a late round or late August draft, you may be able to have additional information on Olave that may help you make that choice. And as far as fading Judkins in redrafts, I don't know how long his suspension is going to be, whatever it may be. I'm taking him in a, there are two places where I would take him, definitely in a dynasty draft. And the other place I'm taking him in is a best ball draft. You're not going to get anything on him early on, but he could really help your team in a best ball later on. It really depends on how Ford and here we go, drawing blanks again, like we did last week. The other rook in Cleveland, but it really depends on how well they do. But I think in a best ball, if you can get him late, which I just saw him at a best ball, go very late. So if you can get him there, that one is good. So for me, and often, in addition to not remembering names as we did last week, I will often mispronounce names, but this time I'm going to get this one right. I'm not going to be like my car that says, hey, Pudge Lappage is calling me. In this particular case, it's Ben Sinnott. And right now, he is overall 208, tight end 34. By the way, tight end, Pudge. And there's not a lot to say here. Sinnott is poised to be the tight end of the future, but with Ertz still around and McLaurin hoarding red zone targets, if he's on the field, that is, Sinnott may have to wait another year to see much of the field. He provides very little appeal in a redraft, but grabbing Sinnott in round 18 of your dynasty startup, no-brainer.
Yeah, absolutely. Sinnott the guy is uber athletic. But we're going to talk about Jalen Wright when we talk about Miami, Jamie, and I'll bring up your question about Judkins, Warren, and Skadabo. So just stay tuned for a second. But now I'm going to bring up Dallas and the aforementioned not Javonte Williams. And he's not a running back either. He's a super running back in this guy's eyes. I took him in our Scott Fish Bowl, and I believe it was round 16 maybe. It was pretty late. Javonte Williams is 2 years removed from being second to Saquon Barkley, maybe in Dynasty. When everybody was talking about Saquon Barkley, who's the number 2 guy behind him, everyone was talking about Javonte Williams. And ECR, he was top 5 running back. Like, it was him and Bijan. And if we're that far removed from that injury that set him out that long, that Javonte Williams was coming back from a very serious knee injury. We look at Stephon Diggs, who's out there right now, making cuts and doing all kinds of crazy stuff. Some people are just built like that. They just have that Wolverine in them. They can just regenerate and get back out there and do whatever they got to do. Some of us don't. Some of us are that guy. Look at J.K. Dobbins, man. Like J.K. Dobbins, it was tough. And he tore his ACL again. Now, Javonte Williams has been out there, and he's shown that, he's doing it. He's back out there. He's running. He still had explosive games last year. But at running back 40 and 155 overall for a redraft, man, oh, man. You could do a lot worse than Javonte Williams right there. I'm actually taking him way, way, way up compared to most of those guys. He's going to be the running back 1 on a team that has a very high-powered offense. They've got Pickens. They've got they do have Ferguson, but they've got the other Ferguson. They've got Jake. They have CeeDee Lamb. Dak is healthy. They drafted a big giant mauler in the draft. They've upgraded their offensive line. It's not going to be what it was last year. I think Javonte Williams is in a very good spot to do very well. Now, Jadon Blue, I am looking at him for best ball leagues. I think it's crazy that he's only 10 picks behind Javonte Williams right now. That to me is absolutely bonkers. He's going running back 50. Javonte is running back 40. Now, you've got some poor news about Jadon Blue's work habits, right? This is it. They've kind of stemmed from college, but still produced in college. When it comes down to it, coaches are not going to care about your work ethic if you produce on the field. If you produce on the field, he's not out there. He's not the running back 1. He's not the guy that has to be the guy for everyone else. He's going to be a gadget player, and he's going to have some huge boom bust weeks. He's going to have those 54-yard touchdown gimmick runs, flea flickers and stuff like that. That's the kind of player he is. He's not going to be 1, 2, 3 down thumper. He'll get some receiving work. But I'm not expecting too much out of Miles Sanders there. I think he's more of a insurance piece to Javonte especially what they paid him. So, if you got something to say over there?
No, I was just going to say before we move on to Miami, we have a couple comments here. One discussing Judkins.
That's Jamie.
That's Jamie. And then we have one from the fantasy football philosopher, our very own
Will. Good afternoon, Will.
There's one above that too.
Oh, sorry. I was rambling on, sir. I didn't see that one. But yeah, I his value will come in Dynasty and Best Ball. I still believe that as well. If what they say was true, I'm not saying it is or it is. I don't know the details legally. That's not my position. But he should get a 6-game suspension if he is convicted on domestic violence. I think anything stemming from domestic violence is an automatic 6-game suspension. So you're not going to see him. He's going to miss training camp. And suspension means they can't train at the facility. He's not going to be in football shape. He's going to be in very, very high risk of soft tissue injury. Stay away from him in seasonal leagues. But solid value as far as
was that regarding Javonte? I think that was regarding Javonte.
No, this is Will talking about the serious situation over with Judkins. Yeah, he'll be a value. Okay. I am not fading him in Dynasty at all. Dynasty, I'm still taking him exactly where I would have taken him before all this news came out. I play fantasy to win. I try and take all of my values out of it. If I kept my values in it, I probably wouldn't play fantasy at all. So there's that. But
and you're probably not starting him anyway in the beginning of the season. So you're not really losing anything in Dynasty. So why wouldn't you take him? He's going to be on your bench. I mean, I can see some people taking him early and starting him. I'm not doing that. So he's going to be on my bench anyway. So there's nothing lost by taking him in a Dynasty league where you wanted him in the first place, because his production is going to come later. Even if not this year, next year, he'll be ready to roll. Why don't you, we have one player from Miami. Why don't you roll that one out?
My guy, Jalen Wright. So, Jamie, to answer your question, Judkins, Jalen Warren, Cam Scatterbo this year. I am not a huge person on handcuffing players, but this is one person I am absolutely willing to handcuff to Devon Achane. We just talked about Judkins. I'm not gonna hit on him anymore. Jalen Warren this year, for whatever reason, if I don't want to put that out in the world that anybody gets hurt, Jalen Warren could be a league winner this year. In that offense, he is a clone of Achane, just bigger. He had a hard time grasping the offense, I think, last year, and that zone run scheme that McDaniel runs over there. But Cam Scatterbo, I am not big on taking. I'll take I don't ever say no, I'm not going to take a player. At his current ADP, I'm not taking him. He is a running back by committee currently with Tracy. Tyrone Tracy is going to lead the backfield for at least the first half of the season. And they're on a really, really bad offense as it is. I'm not a huge guy for taking anybody on bad offenses. I like to take as many guys out of the good offenses as I can. Top 10 offenses are who I target. If I can't get any of those guys, then I'll move to a guy like Scatterbo. But I would absolutely handcuff Jalen Warren to Achane, especially if it's later in the year. I would try and trade for him if you have Achane. After, week 6, week 7, right around there, I'm drafting Scatterboo over Jalen Warren, but only in redraft. In redraft, I'm going Judkins, Scatterboo, Warren, and that over.
Okay, so why don't we finish off with Miami? We'll push Philadelphia and Atlanta to next week. So why don't you talk about Jalen Wright?
I just did.
I thought you were talking about Jalen Warren.
Oh man. I just said that whole thing about Jalen Wright. Jamie, thanks for keeping us honest here. Jalen Warren of the Pittsburgh Steelers. Geez Louise. Let's say I will take Jalen Warren over Cam Scatterboo right now. Jalen Warren, I'll tie this up real quick. I think that he's going to have a big role in Arthur Smith's offense. Arthur Smith is a big guy for running back by committee, and that's all I have to say about that. Sorry about that. Jalen Wright. Yeah, Jalen Wright is going to be a handcuff to Achane. Running back 46 is very appropriately a value for him. And he could be a league winner. Like I said, he could be the guy that just gets it after year one. If you look at Trey Benson didn't get a lot of work either. Both of those guys, they seem to fall out of favor in the coaching. I don't think that's it. I think their coaches just really, really trust those veteran players a lot more than they trust rookies. And now that he's had a year under his belt, you could see a lot more of Jalen Warren or Jalen Wright this year. Holy cow, I am terrible. I'm talking about tight ends and wide receivers and Jalen Warren and Jalen Wright. Oh boy, I want to talk about Philadelphia and Dallas Goedert though. Can I talk about the tight end Dallas Goedert?
Let's do Philadelphia. We'll skip Atlanta. Let's go. Because I don't have much to say about my person. So go ahead.
Right,
go ahead. Go with Goddard.
Dallas Goedert. Exact same thing applies to Dallas Goedert as it does Zach Ertz, except for he's going tight end 15, which that's a little crazy. I would take Zach Ertz before him. But on that high-powered offense, he's going to be a red zone threat. Believe in Dallas Goedert. When he's out there, he's going to be good. He was a trade talk earlier this year. They didn't trade him. They kept him. They're going to want to use him in the red zone and maybe beyond because the tush push could go away next year. It's kind of on the chopping block all the time.
Well, for me, it's really weird with Philadelphia, the fact that you have such a high-powered offense that really doesn't go that deep offensively once you get past the top three. You have Goddard, and then after that, there's two others that are on the list. There's A.J. Dillon, and then the person I was going to talk about was Will Shipley. I really am not going to talk a whole lot about it. He's going overall 247, running back 72. I'm not enamored with either Shipley or Dillon. And Shipley must contend with A.J. Dillon. When you look back at it, I mean, Shipley was really not used at all last year. And why would he be when Barkley was rushing, 2,600 times during the season? There's little reason to suspect that Shipley is going to see much of the field this year. We have him on this list. What's that?
Says the guy that took him first round in our Scott Fishbowl.
I didn't take Will Shipley. Oh, I took Saquon Barkley. I didn't take Will Shipley.
You just said he ran for 2,000 and sometimes.
Well, I mean, that was being
a little facetious over there.
That was a little exaggerated. But we have him on this list, but neither Dillon or Shipley mean much for me. And so, when we said we have one or two players, we probably should have just left them off. But there that is. We will circle back around to Atlanta next week. So you don't have to be a top 3 player to produce for fantasy teams. You don't have to be a top 3 brewery to produce delicious craft beer. Let's suds up. We prefer our craft beer, but we also prefer to be responsible. If you are not drinking at home, please have a plan for safety. If even 1 ounce you imbibe, not 1 yard you should drive. Well, all is said and done, only you are responsible for you being responsible. With that said, Pudge, what beer are you drinking responsibly today?
That was like Vanilla Ice. Imbibe, don't drive. I like it.
Yeah, until I messed it up.
I am going with one of our favorite breweries in Michigan, Atwater. This is Detroit Hustles Harder Double IPA. If you guys like a good IPA, it's 9.2%. I'm a big IPA guy. I know originally in these episodes, I come off as more of a cretin with my my Miller Lights, and Jeff, don't go off to the side like that anymore. I got to see the rest of your basement.
Oh, hold on a second. Go on.
Yeah,
Unlock
maybe we'll edit
me.
that one out. There you go. Whew, boy, this has been an episode of episodes, but hey, cheers. Thanks for sticking with us, everybody. So
yeah, my camera must have went into follow me mode. So first of all, I'm going to utilize this excellent. Normally, for most of my beer, I'm going to use some sort of tulip glass this time, and other than for lagers, pilsners, or hefeweizens. But I am going to use this glass from Scott Fishbowl that just came. It's kind of really hard to see in the camera. Some of the neat artwork. The color is an interesting choice, but these are cool glasses. Last 2 years, there's been a lot of cool offerings from Fantasy Cares, and of course, you can get all those on the Fantasy Cares shop. But the beer that I'm drinking is going to be a brown ale. It's called Brindle Brown Ale, and it is from a brewery out of Michigan City, Indiana, called Burnham Brewing. I've had a few of their beers, and there are a few of their beers I have really come to enjoy. And like I said, typically this isn't the glassware that I would use for this, but hey, when in Rome or when with Fishbowl, but
when Scott Fish says
this
Scott
one,
Fish too.
And I didn't say the ABV, and usually I'm prepared for that, and so we're just going to say it's not important because I can't find it. I'm just going to drink it. So anyway, cheers, everybody.
We went off the rails today. I love it.
That's 2 episodes in a row. Hey,
who cares? They do.
I'm a fantasy nobody. I can't. Nobody. I can't get that right. So we're just good. All right. So anyway, maybe I will tell you the. Actually, if you want to really find out some of these beers, there's an app out there called Untapped, UNTAPPD. My wife calls it Beer Book. You can always check out that app, and just about any beer that is brewed in the world ends up on that app, and it often will give you a lot of information, including what the flavor profile should be, mouthfeel, nose, as well as the hops and other brewing techniques that may go into that. So again, that's UNTAPPD. It can be downloaded on your favorite platform store, and if you decide to do that, you'll soon become a beer aficionado, even if you don't know anything. I'm not saying I know a damn thing about beer, but I know I damn well like it.
Cheers, Jamie.
Cheers. All right. Well, now that train wreck is over, let's move on to A or B.
A or B.
I will present 2 options, and Pudge and I will decide for each of us which option we'd prefer. So the first, A or B. In Fantasy Now Plus's Super League, which is a Superflex best ball, would you rather have A, Najee Harris, or B, Ramondre Stevenson?
Ramondre Stevenson. And are you asking me because you pick right next to me. That is a dirty move. That is a dirty, dirty move. I love it. Oh. Hey, I actually have I've got a guest. She's not Najee Harris, but she wants to say hi. Come here. This is my lovely daughter. And she wanted to say hi to everybody.
Hey.
So there you go.
Hi.
All right.
Hi.
Yeah. Go ahead.
Well, I think maybe I'll go with Ramondre Stevenson, with this one, and maybe even
that is not nice. Oh, that's fine.
That's shocking that you caught on that quickly. Perfect. All right.
What are you trying to say about the fantasy? Nobody is smarter than me.
No, that's not what he said.
Oh, that must put you
anyway.
implying.
Second A or B. Standard half-point PPR. Would you rather have Zay Flowers and a mid-2026 round one, or Jalen Waddle and James Cook?
Oh, Jalen Waddle and James Cook. That's easy for me. You're talking about standard leagues, right?
Yeah, standard half-point PPR. Nothing.
So Zay, I think, is going to be more beneficial in those leagues. Jalen Waddle is kind of a wash right now, but James Cook is – I don't see him slowing down. They didn't bring anybody in. They have Ray Davis. I love James Cook, and whoever I would be getting yeah, Jamie agrees with me. Whoever I would be getting in that first round, I don't know. It's not going to be James Cook, I don't think. With an established floor, he's done it before. He is the bell cow to them. He shouldn't be with this size, but he is the bell cow to them. He's very Jahmyr Gibbs-ish in a point standpoint, not in a player standpoint. But on a high power offense like that, I'll take Cook and Waddle, because Waddle can have a bump. He can rebound.
Yeah, I will take Waddle and Cook easily in this particular situation. And one of the reasons I brought this one up is it kind of highlights sometimes how you cannot trust trade calculators. This trade in a couple of the trade calculators that I ran it through, just for the bleep of it, really had this closer than I ever would have expected. I thought, as I was running through some scenarios, I thought, hey, this one's going to be way in this favor. And it was a lot closer, and I just don't get that. So, again, trade calculators that we've talked before on this show have a purpose, but you cannot rely on them to make decisions for you whatsoever.
Without outing the calculator, which one was the closest? What was the closest score? What was the closest score?
One only had it something like,
to me, that's a home run.
Yeah, one only had it like a 5% advantage to Waddle and Cook. And I would have expected to be double digits. It was just really weird. Yeah, I will just leave it at that. I don't, like I said, I don't want to in any way malign any of the calculators. They all do a great job serving a purpose. I've known people who have relied on them way too much, and you can't do that. It's a nice gauge, but like with anything, you have to have a lot of different sources of information. And then in the end, you got to rely on your own gut. And my gut would have had Waddle and Cook way ahead in this one. And I think we all agree on that. All right. And our third A or B, spend 1 week around the clock with someone you do not like, or B, spend 1 week alone in the wilderness with no contact and no electronics.
Easy. You pick it for me. You already know what it is.
I don't actually. I think in the wilderness because you like being out there. So I'm going to say that one. And
this show will be hard come October 1st, it will be very hard for CJ Pudge LePage. October 1st
Yes, it will.
is bow hunting, and I spend a lot of time out in the wilderness talking to the chipmunks and the turkeys and the deer and squirrels, and I would be just fine out there. I know a lot of people, they need electronics. I don't. I'm very okay with just me and nature, but no, nature and I'm sorry, proper nomenclature. But let's hear the fantasy nobody. What's he got to say? No electronics.
Well, I am not a wilderness guy whatsoever. I could do without the electronics. I definitely could do without television, electronics, and all that. But the wilderness, I mean, if I was on a beach on an island, that'd be a different thing. But a whole week with someone you do not like, I mean, it's bad enough I got to do a 1-hour show with you.
I feel attacked.
Just kidding. Maybe
You're about to spend 3 days with me, so
that was, I think, it might even be 4. The Fantasy Football Expo coming up. That is going to be excellent. I'll spend the week alone. I can occupy I'm always inside my own head anyway, so I can actually have a conversation with myself and entertain myself for a week. So I'll be good. I think I'm fine that way.
Nice.
All right, Pudge. Let everybody know where they cannot find you when you are in solitude for a week.
Well, you won't be able to find me on anywhere but X and Blue Sky. I am FF_LePudge on X, and I am FF_LePudge, no underscore, at fantasynowplus.com on Blue Sky, everyone.
And I am FF_YIS on X, and FF_YIS dot fantasynowplus.com on Blue Sky, FF_YIS on Discord. Don't know why I don't have an underscore on Blue Sky, but We want to thank the audience for listening. Our next episode will be Friday, August 1 at 3 p.m. Eastern and noon Pacific. Catch up on episodes of Fantasy Studs and Suds and your other favorite Fantasy Now Plus shows here on YouTube, YouTube Music, Apple Music, and Spotify. Follow the Funz Talk Sports Network here on YouTube. Follow Fantasy Now Plus on Discord, TikTok, Blue Sky, and subscribe to this channel here on YouTube. Until next time, for Pudge LePage, I'm the Fantasy Nobody, Jeffrey Chris. Be good, be kind, be responsible, and cheers.
See ya!
Thanks for listening. Be sure to like and subscribe wherever you watch or listen to podcasts. We'll be back next week for more ways to win your league.